Hello, welcome back to AP World History Essay Writing for the DBQ. And today we're going to focus on contextualization. Previously, I know we've talked about context and contextualization and what that means, but let's cover that a little bit more in depth here. Let's make sure we know what context is. Contextualization or context, that's the circumstances that form all of the surroundings and the settings for a statement or an idea or even an event, and it puts it in terms that can be fully understood and examined. That's context. So when you contextualize in your DBQ, you want to situate the argument by explaining the broader historical events or developments or processes that are immediately relevant to the question. This includes the time, the place, the situation of the prompt, and the events or processes that directly led to the issue within the prompt. And it's very important that you give explanations of world historical events that connect the prompt or the question to the global process. How did we get to this point that's in the question, right? So context is generally presented at the beginning of the essay and should be multiple sentences, preferably a paragraph. But then you also need to place each of your answers in context. So when you try to determine or come up with the context for your essay, obviously your prompt depends on what your context will be. So your focus there is, how does the prompt fit into world history? How does this question or this issue that's been presented to you, how does that fit into the world historical process? And how is that a part of something greater? Again, like I said, each answer should have context within the body paragraphs. So you introduce your answer, you provide your evidence from your documents. Remember, you explain the document, you source the document, you do that for each of your three. Then you need to place your answer in context, right? Those three body paragraphs that make up your three answers of your thesis should also have context within their explanations. Individually connect each answer to the global process by explaining its link to world history. So how does your answer a part of historical developments? So, for example, if this was your prompt, using the documents provided in your knowledge of world history, analyze the similarities and differences in the civilizations in Mesopotamia and Egypt in the period from 2700 BCE to 1000 BCE. So when you try to develop context, which you should be able to do without viewing the documents, you try and determine for this particular prompt how these two civilizations came about. So you should be able to do this and develop really solid context without seeing those documents. So it's important to brainstorm ideas. For example, you're looking at after 3500 BCE, which is one of the time periods or one of the points where historians generally agree that about this time is the development of significant agriculture. So you've got agriculture, and that was used for survival. What leads to staying in one place and developing food as opposed to hunting and gathering? Civilization. So you think about civilization as a concept, okay? And that whole idea of becoming sedentary and no longer moving and migrating with herds to find food, but purposefully manipulating the environment to grow your own, and realizing that those that controlled food had power. And if you have power, you can conquer your neighbors, which leads to social hierarchies, and as well as the first civilizations. And we've got some examples: Egypt and Mesopotamia, which are both included in your prompt, but also in other parts of the world, not just the Middle East and northeastern Africa, but also Mesoamerica and the Indus and Chinese river valleys. And eventually, these larger civilizations absorbed or displaced smaller villages. And that's also part of conquering their neighbors. So these are just some ideas that you could come up with when you're developing context for this particular prompt. So, for example, you could say, like agriculture, the concept of civilization became a global phenomenon. And as humans looked to new methods of survival, agriculture developed. After 3500 BCE, new civilizations emerged independently in several locations globally because of agriculture. Such places as the Fertile Crescent, the Nile River and Indus River valleys, Chinese river valleys that became dynasties, and even remote locations in the Western Hemisphere like Mesoamerica became important civilizations. The larger civilizations matured as they gradually absorbed or displaced smaller communities. And in the period 2700 BCE to 1000 BCE, two of those first civilizations, Mesoamerica and Egypt, developed differently while sharing notable similarities. And then that would segue you into your thesis. Again, if you have any questions about any of these modules, email me and I will do the best that I can to help you and make sure that you understand. Remember, a lot of you have never been exposed to this before, so if you're not understanding or you're having a hard time following, that's okay. This is all new. Again, email me if you have questions and I will help you.